David Chedgey is a British artist living and working in Norwich. He's best known for his figurative portraiture work and for his 3D mechanical sculptures. He trained at Twickenham, Ealing and Liverpool art schools and studied under Frank Auerbach. He then worked for 30 years as a secondary school art teacher before retiring to become a full-time artist.
I don't think anybody in authority at any of the art schools that I went to thought that I would actually become a teacher. My second principal at Twickenham Art School said he would do everything in his power to stop me becoming an art teacher, because he said you've got a lot of growing up to do, which I never did really. I somehow fell into teaching. I don't really know how it happened.
Chedgey eventually ended up at a comprehensive boarding school in Norfolk, an ex-wartime hospital. Its classrooms were dilapidated Nissen huts.
I landed at Wyndham College, and there the head did say to me, you won't get the kids to enjoy art unless they see that you do. So he said, always have some of your own work on the go, introduce a lesson, and then do your own work in front of them.
His technique relied heavily on acrylic paint applied with an airbrush.
I just adored super hyper-realism, and I started to paint like that, but I don't know when it went. Maybe I was always about 3 years behind fashion, so I suddenly found that I was probably the only person left doing super realism when everybody else had moved on to the latest thing. If you look at the really great hyper-realists, you can see a Ralph Goings painting and you know it's a Ralph Goings painting merely because it's got a ketchup bottle or a packet of sweetener in it. But if he were to paint a car and someone else were to paint a car, you wouldn't be able to say, oh, that's definitely Ralph Goings' painting, because it would be painted so meticulously that it looked just like a photograph, and so would the other guy, and so would all the other hyper-realists. If they're all told, right, paint me a 1957 Chevy, you'd end up with 12 or 13 identical paintings, because each one would go right down to the last tiny rust spot on the hubcap. And so it wasn't until I abandoned that style and started using brushes that I developed a style which people say now is, oh yeah, that's a Chedgey. They can see that it's my work.
During his time at Wyndham College, he taught a number of students who had become successful in their own fields, actor Mark Strong and Turner Prize nominee, the artist Glenn Brown.
He said to me, you know, if it hadn't been for your encouragement and the helpful comments you wrote, I would never have dared go for this. And he had a sheaf of paintings with him. And I said, well, what sort of comments are you talking about? And he said, well, like this one, for example. And he showed me a painting he'd done in tempera on buff sugar paper of a boiled egg and a crusty roll on a fawn plate on a brown tablecloth. And on the back, I'd written, Glenn, if I gave my dog a packet of wax crayons, he could shit better work than this. And then 6 years later, he's up for the Turner Prize, and his paintings are selling for $100,000 a piece. Good on him, good on the boy. And I take no credit for any of that. I've always had the gift of being able to get a good likeness, which is important. This is the most recent one. This woman is a painter herself. I mainly make a living from portrait painting. It's still photographic in style, although I've switched now from using minute sable brushes, acrylics and a hairdryer to using bristle brushes and oil and taking more time over them. But it somehow freed my work up. Back and I did a Cuban car in the hope of selling it, because Cuban cars, as you know, have always done well for me. 3D work I've always had a fascination with surrealism, with the weird, with the unexplained, and the great lie. I love to present something as a piece of artwork or as a found object which I've invented myself. A pair of shoe lasts. He had hundreds of them that were left in the place. So I moulded my own feet onto them and used the pun "last dance for me." This is a window winder off a 1966 Chevy, and it dances sometimes. I get these weird ideas and I have to turn them into a 3D object somehow. I very rarely sell them. He's goading the British troops at the field of Waterloo, and he just flashes to them. Brits go home, vive la France. It's self-amusement, if you like. It's stuff that I do because I have to, if I get a weird thought, like the man who ate too many clocks, like the autistic hospital cleaner who dreams of being a great surgeon, so therefore dissects his own left hand. This is the history man. I found these original newspapers that I'd kept from Kennedy's assassination, also the moon landing on the other side, and I thought, what could I do with it? So I made a clay head and took a plaster of Paris mould from it, and then made this papier-mâché head using the original newspapers. I get a lot of personal fun out of the sculptures, whereas the enjoyment that I get from doing a portrait is the response that it gets from other people. I don't expect people to be greatly amused by a stuffed canary that will never sing. I class myself as a sort of a jobbing artisan, if you like. There's not going to be any celebratory exhibitions of me in 500 years' time. But I enjoy what I do. I really do enjoy it, and I couldn't imagine doing anything else. And I worry that this essential tremor that I have will eventually stop me from painting. I still think that on the day that I die, there will be fresh paint on a canvas or a brand new screw sticking out of a piece of sculpture. I won't ever get to the stage where I think, oh, well, that's enough. I'll sit back and enjoy my retirement now.
After over 50 years of expressing himself as an artist, what motivates his continuing creativity?
It's certainly 95% showing off, isn't it? I think. It's look at me, look what I've made. It's not something that you do and then put in a folder and stuff in a bookcase. It is something which you make, which you hope is going to be displayed, and which will create emotional responses from the audience. And I think really the emotion that I like to get is amusement. There's always something quirky going on there somewhere. But I also like it when people whose work I admire either say to me, that is a stunning piece of work, Chedge, or they buy from me, other artists. That is a great sort of compliment. I am a dedicated artist. I know that I will paint and sculpt till the day I die, but I'm not an artist in quotation marks. I won't be remembered as a great artist. I think I'll be remembered as a mentor, maybe. Yeah, because there's quite a few kids that I keep still. I say kids, you know, they're in their 50s, but I still correspond with. And the only thing I would change now, if I could have some time back, I would have those 4 years at Ealing Art School back, and I would learn from the tutors instead of taking the piss out of them.